let's assume that you can lawfully make a homemade firearm. Can you sell it?
Yeah. I mean, the most conservative legal advice I give people is if you have, milled out your 80% lower, it's yours.
Yeah.
Don't sell it. There are laws in place. You can't manufacture something without having a manufacturer's license with the intent that you distribute it. So, I mean, that actually goes so far as, let's say that I have an 80% receiver. You have, the equipment to mill it out.
Right.
I can't hand it to you and ask you to mill it out for me and give it back to me.
Right. That would make me
You'd be an unlicensed manufacturer.
Manufacturer. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That would be a crime. But generally speaking, and we get into these legal hypotheticals about like, well, you manufactured it decades ago and you obviously didn't intend that you did it for distribution, but now you want to sell it out of your personal collection. Is there legality to be had there? A legal hypothesis is wonderful.
Right.
Possibly you're just fine in that circumstance. I still tell people, play it safe. If you have created your own firearm, I'm gonna die with it.
Right.
Is my plan.
Well, and it changes the conversation, and this is how it would come up. A gun that you made shows up at a crime scene, and you didn't commit the crime, and now they're going to try to figure out what was the origin of this firearm. And if they trace it back to the person who constructed this firearm, if they're not a licensed manufacturer, they're going to have a bad time. And that's how it comes up over and over again. And I think that's kind of going back to our earlier discussion. A question came up now about some history on the Gun Control Act and serialized firearms. I think that fits in really well right here.
It does. I love reminding people that it was not a requirement that your firearm receiver be serialized until 1968, right? Until the Gun Control Act. It's something that we so take for granted now. But I know, we're here in Texas. In Texas, there are Lord knows how many unserialized firearms floating around just in the general public here that were manufactured not by individuals, but by manufacturers. They're just not serialized because they were manufactured before 68, right? And that's perfectly fine here in Texas. Again, the states vary on this matter, but, in the grand history of the United States and firearms and the Second Amendment, serial numbers are a relatively new invention.